It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Yo, 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 we are back. Zachary Smith, Alan Saunders, Steelers Afternoon Drive. Big shout out to Nick Faribault for filling in yesterday, but we got my man Alan Saunders back at Steelers training camp. What's going on, Alan?
I'm a little bit tanner. I took a couple days at the beach when Steelers were off yesterday and bugged out of practice over the weekend. So feeling good. Good to be back. Big day today. Today is first day of real practice, full pads, backs on backers. Like 900 things happened at practice today. So let's just get into it.
Let's get into it. I think the first thing that everybody always wants to talk about with training camp, myself included, and I am supposed to be the voice of the fans on this show, so it's good that I'm here because the first thing I want to talk about is the backs on backers. That's what everybody's looking forward to. So let's talk about it there. A lot of names popping up. I mean, let's just start. Who stood out to you in those drills, and what did you see?
I think the first one has to be Darnell Washington. His first rep against T.J. Watt, and really, as I think about as good as I've ever seen anyone block T.J. Watt in that drill. Just completely shut him down. They went again. TJ did better the second time. I still don't think I would call it like a clear win, more like a 50-50. Then, Mike Tomlin said, hey, 80, if I see 90, I want to see you. So they went a couple times. Then Tomlin sent him out against Alex Highsmith. I think Highsmith will call a win for Highsmith, but it certainly was not like a clean win. He really slowed him down, made him go all the way around. I asked Alex Highsmith about it after practice. I was like, how far do you have to go to get around Darnell Washington? And he was like, it's a long way. There's a long way around to go. If you want to use speed as a weapon against him in pass rush, you better be real fast because it is a long way around. So I think, to me, that was the big thing. Rookie, first one of these, drawing maybe the best pass rusher in the league. And, yeah, doing pretty well. I know that we all thought that he was going to be a good blocker coming out of Georgia. You look at the tape, obviously he is a very good blocker. But there's a difference between being a very good blocker coming out of Georgia and standing up T.J. Watt. That's an elevation for me. I was surprised to see that. I think it was a big day for him. He struggled a little bit in the early part of training camp when it comes to the route running of the receiving and when to cut things off and hots and things of that nature. So it was good to see him have a big day. He certainly can block, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think, let's just stick with the Washington because I think one of the guys that I was most intrigued by, I talked about it with Nick too, when the pads came on, was going to be Nick Herbert, and he won a rep against Washington, or at least Nick said he won a rep against Washington using that ghost move.
He was the last guy to go against Washington. He had the cleanest win against him of anyone. He also had about 5 against Connor Hayward. They paired them up. Hayward got him pretty good the first time, really stood him up. And then Herbert did get Hayward with that ghost move very cleanly on about the third rep when they went. One of the cleanest wins all day. I thought Herbert looked very good. And you know what? I can kind of call that a win for both guys. Connor Hayward is not a guy that I consider to be some kind of elite pass protector in terms of tight ends. He doesn't have the longest arms. He's a little bit short. He has, he's just not the most physical guy. So him hanging in there and kind of doing pretty well against Herbert, who I think has really shown pass rush chops that I didn't see on the tape in Wisconsin. I think he is a more evolved pass rusher. We've talked a lot about how he's, again, another guy that doesn't necessarily have the physical build that you associate with his position. One of the reasons I'm seeing now that I've kind of gotten to see him in practice that I think the Steelers want him to stay at outside linebackers, he's got great moves. I think that's a lot of it. We'll see how he holds up against the run and that kind of thing, but he can rush the passer. There's no question about that. Those two guys, I think Herbig and Washington, were probably the two big highlights for me. And just in terms of guys that I think people are interested in, we want to see development from. But the biggest ooh from the whole thing was Landon Roberts just
that's where I was going next. Yep. Sending
John Lovett, the new running back from Penn State, into a different dimension. One of the hardest hits I can recall seeing in that drill. It was just running back on the train tracks. And, usually what happens in that drill is the running backs are so jacked up to not get run over, okay, that that some linebackers can make them look pretty silly by just giving them a little bit of a move. It's not even like a full move. I was actually listening in as Aaron Curry was going over a drill earlier, and it's like, you don't even need to do a whole move. Just give them a little hesitation or a little shimmy or something like that, and they'll come out of their shoes after you, and then you just go right by them. And that's usually how the running backs end up looking bad in this drill. It is not usually like this, where Landon Roberts just went right over him, and then he did it again. It was impactful. There were some big hits. It was, it's teammate versus teammate, and you don't want to get anybody hurt. But this was a pretty physical training camp practice today.
Yeah, because I remember I've seen people talk about Quan Alexander likes the hit too. So I thought it was going to be very interesting to see how those two do in back-on-backer specifically.
Quan, I didn't see get a ton of reps. He actually did get one of the running backs. I think it was Darius Hagens on that little half swim move kind of thing where you just make him come out at you and you get by him. But Alexander had a big hit in team run period. There were several of those. Several. it was very physical. I thought the running backs did well. Jaylen Warren had a really nice run that was really well blocked. Sam Alou on the kick out, and Pat Fryermuth coming across dragged Roberts a good ways. But it was, if somebody got stood up, that was not the end of it. There was a second and third guy come crashing in there, and there were some pops. It was physical, and that's what the Steelers want to see from this setting, right? That's why they come here. That's why they do this, and it's definitely a physical practice. There's no question about that.
Something else that gets the fans going, a drill that gets the fans going, is going to be the 7 shots to the first one of padded practices. Went the full 7 games, Alan, before the defense takes it 4-3. I like to word it like that. But what did you see in 7 shots maybe that stood out, if anything?
Lots of running. They haven't done a ton because they haven't been wearing pads, so they ran a lot. Najee scored on both of his, I think. There was a missed sort of timing exchange between Mitch Trubisky and I want to say Anthony McFarland on a read option that didn't go so well. They actually ran that one back, and then the defense stopped. Was it McFarland the second time? I'm not sure. But they did get a stop on a run. Other than that, I think it was a pretty solid showing for the defense. When the offense gets the defense tries to play it straight up, but we all know that when nobody's wearing pads, they're not going to line up and run power over and over again, 7 times in a row. They are a little bit more focused on the passing plays most of the time, and I thought they handled it well. We did not see a ton of wrinkles in that 7-shot drill. We did, though, in the team periods where we saw some play action, we saw some bootleg, we saw some kind of delay action things where you kind of fake the draw. And I think some of that really worked. Cody White got wide open. Mitch Trubisky hit him for about 30 yards on a play action. There was another one where Gunner was wide open, kind of running down the field. And it certainly seems like I have been one of a number of people that have been calling for this offense to run more play action. I can't sit here and, August 1st say, yes, it's going to happen, but they're certainly doing some of it right now, which is a good sign to see.
Did you see any of it before the padded practices? Were they doing any play action stuff or no?
Some bootleg stuff maybe, but I can't recall seeing a ton of play action until today. It was definitely, hand in hand with, okay, we're going to run and we're going to run some play action. And I really think if you look at this offense, that's the best way they can be explosive. They need to be able to run the ball effectively, get teams moving forward, going downhill, and then they can use play action. They can get Kenny moving and use his athleticism. He looked, I thought, very good today. He did throw 1 interception, but Joey Porter, no, that was Mitch's. So maybe no interceptions for Kenny. I thought he was very solid today. He just continues to impress me in his poise and his knowledge of the offense, and he's such a winner, man. I think he's not like the world's most precise passer, but I think you get around that guy and you kind of have a good sense as to the character and why the Steelers were so comfortable with him as a first-round pick, given how well they knew him. Everybody says, when we're talking about Pitt and Pitt recruiting, it's like, oh, yeah, you get the NFL team right next door. It'll be such an advantage for you as you're going through it. I'm like, well, it's only an advantage for you if they like what they see, right? If they're at Pitt practice every day and they see some guy dogging it out there or some guy who doesn't take it seriously, then it's not an advantage for you at all, right? But it was an advantage for Kenny Pickett, I think, pretty clearly, and I think it's coming out now. You're starting to see the leader, the worker, And I think Pat Narduzzi was on Adam Brenneman's podcast recently, and he said Kenny Pickett is going to will the Steelers to the Super Bowl. And like Dudes and I are not necessarily in lockstep on all of our football opinions, but I think this one I agree with. Like I do, there is like a will of his personality that I think you're seeing in an offense that's full of young guys. Like there aren't any other leaders. You know, this is kind of the group. They're all young guys, and he's their guy, and I think you can kind of tell that. So I think play action is going to be a big weapon for Kenny Pickett this year for sure.
I'm excited to hear that. Well, like you talk about play action, I've been calling for that too. I'd like to see some more empty sets as well from this offense. Have you seen any of that, whether that be in 7 shots team period?
So I think we talked before about how they're doing a lot of like coming out empty and then motioning the back into the backfield. They've been doing a lot of that, and then they will run it empty sometimes. There's a very interesting one today. I don't think it was in 7 shots. I think it might have been in maybe it wasn't 7 shots, where they lined up with all 3 wide receivers on the left, and then Pat Freiermuth and Jaylen Warren split out to the right. And then Warren, it wasn't 7 shots. Warren motioned back in the backfield, and they got Freiermuth one-on-one against a corner. Pat Peterson made a really nice play to break it up. But, you know, I think stuff like that is going to be their bread and butter. I'm not sure they're going to go a ton of empty, but I do think we will see the running backs moving around a lot more than everybody wants to do some motion because it's your man zone indicator, right? Like, you give some motion and you can tell if the defense just makes an adjustment, then it's zone. If a guy follows your guy, then it's man. And that's giving Kenny Pickett pre-snap information. You want to go in motion at least somewhere at some point to do that. But what a lot of times the Steelers have been doing, the jet motion or the reverse jet motion where they'll run one way, then they'll run back the other way. I think I've seen a lot less of that and a lot more of straight shotgun with these, move a guy into the slot, move a guy out of the slot, move a guy from the outside past the guy, which stresses defenses when you move a guy from like the 1 to the 2 to the 3. So like that play, Jaylen Warren starts on the outside and then he ends up all the way on the other side of Kenny Pickett. Now you have a defense that's very quickly got to change responsibilities. And so I think we're going to see more of that. I don't know that we're going to see more empty, but I do think we're going to see more of that kind of motion. And I think just more shotgun in general. Even though today was a team run day, didn't see a whole ton of Kenny under center. It was a lot of shotgun, but we did still see the play action, even though it was shotgun.
Gotcha. Okay. A lot of talk about aliens right now in the world, Alan, and there's one at Steelers training camp and George Pickens. There's a video that's circulating of a rep between him and Joey Porter Jr. Ridiculous catch that he makes basically parallel to the ground. Other than that play, I mean, his name was thrown in a lot of tweets. What type of day did George Pickens have? And just what are your thoughts on him in general so far here early in camp?
I believe he is an alien. I feel like, look, I mean, I think all of us have had this conversation in our minds since we found out that apparently they exist. Is it like, all right, who is it? If you look at this locker room right now, it's 14. I mean, there's no question. He is the alien. First of all, he's a weird guy, right? Like he's not normal.
Football aside.
Just leave the football aside. He is a weird dude. I mean, his little creepy touchdown celebration. He is abundantly confident. Not that that's a unique trait for a wide receiver, but I think if you go on a media outlet and you say you're the best wide receiver in the world, when you're a second-year guy and you had like, I don't know, what do you have, like 700 yards last year or something like that? Maybe not even that. That's unique. He's a unique cat. And so personality, first of all, and then the things he does on the football field it's sort of like, did you see Semi-Pro, right? The first slam dunk when the whole team was that's illegal. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. It's unnatural. He hung in the air. That's what Joey Porter Jr. had an outstanding day of training camp today. And all most people are going to remember is that he's somewhere underneath George Pickens in that video as he's laying out, making a just absolutely absurd catch. Yeah, he's not human. He's not fair. He had another one in the back of the end zone in a 7-on-7 period where there were 2 guys on him, and he was being, sort of like hemmed in at the back of the end zone, and he went up 4 feet over his head and then landed in a spot about 8 inches wide at the back of the end zone to score a touchdown. He's unreal. I can't even really. I don't really think we even have an idea of how good he can be. Obviously, he's not. I will disagree with George. Not the best receiver in the world right now, but I don't want to say that he can't be. I can't imagine doubting that guy right now. Insanely athletic, insanely confident, great hands. I think would all like to see more from a route tree development standpoint.
That's what I was going to bring up, is because it does look like and sound like he is starting to run some different routes.
Yeah, so the one in the back of the end zone we've seen from him before, but that was a nice route where it was an adjustment. He saw what was happening. The quarterback's first read wasn't there. He broke things off, found what you could sort of call a hole. It wasn't really. I mean, it was great coverage again. I want to say that one was Trey Norwood. I can't remember exactly. Don't quote me on that. But man, he's always open. I think that's the thing. That's like, how covered would he have to be that you would consider saying, well, it was a good idea not to throw to him? Like, I don't know. Like, does someone have like a Monstar from Space Jam that they can put on him? Because otherwise, I think maybe he is a Monstar. Now that to bring this conversation back to the beginning, yeah, I think he might be a Monstar.
I think that's a good question though too. It's like, because a lot of conversations surrounding George Pickens as well, he doesn't get open, he doesn't create much separation. Does he have to? Like,
he touches all the time anyway.
Guys win in different ways. I don't know that he necessarily, like, if he starts to do that, then you start to have a conversation about him getting to these different tiers of levels of receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the thing that he does is very valuable. It's not like he's good at one thing and it's like, oh, well, who cares? He's everybody wants to throw the ball down the field. Everybody wants to stretch defenses and get plays in big chunks. And so even if he doesn't turn into much more than that, he'll still be a very good receiver. If he turns into a lot more than that, he's going to be a great one. There's no doubt in my mind.
The guy on the opposite end of that play, Joey Porter Jr., you mentioned he had a great day of training camp with his dad in attendance there, by the way. Yeah, also an alien. So George Pickens is the Monstar. Joey Porter Jr. is just an alien.
Well, no, he's an avatar. I think Mike T has said that he is an avatar, and that fits. He had a great day today, man. I mean, I can't fault him for that Pickens catch. He had a beautiful interception. Mitch Trubisky was going up against Cody White, deep shot, was just right in his pocket the whole way, man. I know Cody White's not, a Pro Bowler, but when you can just really run the guy's route, basically with like your leg in his pants, like all the way down the sideline, then go up, high point the ball, had a great return on it too. I mean, it's literally like exactly what you want to see from a young defensive back. And I gotta be honest, I think Joey Porter Jr. has been one of the big winners here, just because from my perspective, I didn't think he was that good in the spring. Like when I saw him at OTAs and minicamp, I was seeing a guy I thought needed some work. I think that guy got some work. He looks much better. Obviously, the physicality ramping up is a big benefit to a guy his size. I do think he's going to have problems early on adjusting to the way games are officiated in the NFL. He probably is a guy that's going to collect some flags, I would think. But, man, I don't know what more you could really want from him through the first week of training camp.
I mean, the fact that we've seen an interception already, I mean, that was the big question around him, was going to be the ball production.
No, he can't catch. He can catch, okay? He can catch. He ran down the field, basically ran the route for Cody White, high-pointed the ball in front of him. He basically mossed the wide receiver, and then he had a great run back. Like he can catch the ball. The problem with him and the ball skills at Penn State was just about playing a lot of man and not being able to get his head around in time. And that's exactly what we saw him do today. I just think that was way overblown. I think there's this tendency among Steelers fans to just assume that when they take a guy, whether it was like Kenny Pickett from Pitt or Joey Porter Jr., who was both from Penn State and his dad played for the team, there's this like negative subset of Steelers fans that just automatically assume Like, that's why he's here, and it's not because he's good.
Nepotism,
and it's nepotism, it's homerism, it's just fan service, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, that guy should have been a top 20 pick. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
Especially in this draft class. Like, it wasn't
big and strong. He's confident. He's mature. And look, I think back to my days in your side of the box here, I'm a big Joey Porter fan. I think he brought an entertainment aspect to the game that was legendary. Okay. In addition to being an all-pro kind of player, Joey is nothing like his dad in a good way, if that makes sense. When we were talking about the first day of player arrivals here and said, hey, it's kind of boring. Nobody did anything crazy. Nobody did anything stupid. I think Joey Porter Jr. fits boring in the best possible way. Like, if you're Mike Tomlin, do you think he's sitting there that night like, man, we're boring. That's no fun. We should spice it up a little bit. Like, where are these guys? Bring back AB and bring back all these other guys that were going to do some crazy stuff so that the media could be entertained on move-in day. Like, no, he wants to be boring. He's happy with boring. He's happy with Joey Porter Jr. He's a great draft pick. He's going to be, I think, a great player. He's not a perfect player yet. I think there's certainly still some growth there, but I've been really impressed with him, and I think moving quickly in the right direction here at St. Vincent.
He was the first of their 2 second-round picks. Their first-round pick, we got to talk at least a little bit about Broderick Jones in his first padded practice for the Steelers. How did you think that he looked?
He looked very weighed down when I saw him, and that was because he was carrying the pads of all the veteran offensive linemen, and he wore them on top of – so that when I saw Broderick Jones, it was essentially like the neighbor from Home Improvement. You just get the eyes, and that was kind of it. I thought he looked good. I wasn't over at the offensive line, defensive line one-on-one, so we might have to pick Nick's brain next time we get him over here. But I thought he looked good in the run periods. I expect him to look good in the run periods, especially against the second-team defense. Didn't see a lot of him with the ones today. I'm sure that'll be sprinkled in. But I think Dan Moore's playing pretty well. I've not seen protection problems for an offense that is going up against Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward on every rep. Kenny's a mobile guy. He's not like the world's most planted in the pocket quarterback. I think one of the legitimate criticisms of him coming out of Pitt was that he left the pocket too quickly, but like, he's not running for his life out here. And given the talent on the defense, I think that's saying pretty good things about that number 1 offensive line.
By the way, real quick here, I can just hold on.
Yep. That's
that was it. That was him with fellow rookie Spencer Anderson carrying everybody's pads.
Yeah. It's a little awkward looking, but I got to say, that's probably easier than trying to fit them. Even if you have long arms as long as his, I don't know how you get that many pads around, and then the helmets. I think he's onto something there.
Smart, very innovative.
Work smarter, not harder. Brought to you by Broderick Jones today, I think.
There you go. A lot of good things happening at training camp. However, one injury. We've been talking a lot about rookies on this episode, and sticking with the rookie theme.
A very rookie-heavy episode.
Yeah. Corey Trice Jr. goes down with a non-contact injury in his right leg, right knee. He's actually torn his ACL before. He broke his ankle going back to high school, so he's got some injury history there. Maybe why he fell to the 7th round of the draft. Doesn't look good. Obviously, don't know specifics and stuff yet. But you were there. Obviously, you saw the injury take place. Doesn't look good.
Yeah, I don't know how non-contact it was. It was kind of in the middle of a tackle. I thought maybe he kind of just got twisted around something. I don't know. I don't have the benefit of replay when I'm here on the sideline, but it was right where the play was going. It was like a kind of like a short pass over to his side of the field, and Trey Norwood and somebody else ended up coming in to finish the tackle. But yeah, not good looking. No weight at all on his right leg coming off the field on the cart. Tried at first to walk to the cart, and I think the trainer kind of talked him out of it. So, you hope it's not the season. I remember it was a couple episodes ago, we talked about Calvin Austin and how, you have to temper expectations for a guy who missed his entire rookie season from injury, who was a late round draft pick. I think it would be a shame for us to have to say that about Corey Trice this time next year. As a guy I was really excited about, I think was way slept on in the draft. The Steelers probably got like a 4th round pick in the 7th round, in my opinion. But it did not look good. It certainly seems like it will be at least a medium-term injury. We'll see if it's a long-term one. And, not what you want to see. And also their depth is being tested in the secondary right now. They're not heavy on bodies at the moment.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this. I asked you some questions about some guys because I just haven't heard their names. You're actually working on something that, like, if you're paying attention to the practices right now, the names that you keep seeing within the secondary are guys you really wouldn't think of as like mainstays. I mean, you got Kenny Robinson running with the ones right now. So who, amongst that group has kind of stood out to you, and what do you make of their, patchwork, if you will, secondary that's kind of being thrown out there right now?
It's patchwork, and I can say that all of those guys, Kenny Robinson, Duke Dawson, Shannon Sullivan, Elijah Riley, Trey Norwood, I think all of those guys have had moments, right? Elijah Riley made a really nice play against Connor Hayward in a 7-on-7, knocked away a touchdown. Trey Norwood lit up Jamarcus Bradley today, probably the biggest hit outside of backs on backers all day on a scramble drill and just shoulder into chest, and it was a hard hit. Elijah and I think Shannon Sullivan and Duke Dawson have both showed, like probably more than the other two, a little bit level of consistency. But it's been an up and down. I can also pick 5 plays where, Deontay Johnson in 7-on-7 just cooked Kenny Robinson today. I mean, not that he's not open on every play, but like 7 yards open, Elijah Riley got beat a couple times also. There's been good with the bad. I've thought that Trey Norwood has been a little bit too passive for most of training camp, and then he comes through with a big hit today. So it doesn't seem like they have a made guy there. Like Minkah Fitzpatrick hasn't been practicing, personal reasons per Mike Tomlin. Don't really have any understanding or clarification of that beyond that. Something I'm hoping to learn this week. Keanu Neal's a veteran, been there, done that guy. He's probably not going to practice a ton just because of that. And the rest of the safeties in the slots are these guys we're talking about who are just, Sullivan was like a kind of low-value free agent. Riley, I think they claimed him on waivers last year. Norwood was a 7th-round pick. Dawson was a guy from the practice squad last year. Like, these are not – we talked a lot about the draft class. Like, this is the spare parts class, right? Like, these are not guys that had this big pedigree. And so – I think it's a bit concerning, like the depth. Like I hope Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to play, first of all, at some point. But even beyond that, I've thought that slot corner was kind of a big question. Now, some of that can be Patrick Peterson if they're able to play Porter outside and move Peterson inside. But it sure seems like the depth at safety is a little bit uncertain. And I know we talked about before about how I think the communication between those guys is really suffering as a result of everybody mixing and matching parts and different players in different spots on different days. And I think it's caused a lot of the big plays that we've seen from the offense, not to take things away from them. They're taking advantage of mistakes, and that's what good offenses do. But probably a few more gray hairs in Terrell Austin's beard this week, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're paying attention, tweet by tweet, and you're wondering where some of these names are, the one that I will say to put everybody's minds at rest, because I asked Alan about him, I was like, "Where's Levi Wallace?" He's like, "Oh no, he's here. He's practicing. He's a low key guy. Doesn't get picks, just does his thing." But I haven't seen anything about him. But
if you're a defensive back that is good, but you don't make a lot of interceptions, you never get mentioned at practice because the ball doesn't get thrown your way very often. And so nothing happens. Like there's just the really funny thing is like where we stand, he usually lines up on the far side of the field. So it's like Levi Wallace is 30 yards away from me doing his job quietly. The ball never goes there. And I don't talk about him. I don't know. Like it's so fun. Like that's what he did in Buffalo. They tried to replace him for like 3 years as their starting cornerback, and he just kept beating everybody else that they sent over there. But he was never so dominant that they felt like they shouldn't keep trying to replace him either. He's just this steady guy that does his job in a non-flashy way. And I think he's doing just fine. Maybe the one spot I think in that defensive secondary that seems outside corner seems like it's in good shape between Levi and Pat Pete, who I still think people are very underrating how good he is going to be for this team. But I will say this: he's an older guy, and if we're talking about the depth of the secondary being an issue, I'm not sure how confident if there's no Corey Trice, like where. If something happens to your going to be 35-year-old cornerback, do they have the depth to have guys to turn to? Remember what happened in that Buffalo game last year when they were down some defensive backs. I don't think anybody's looking for a repeat of that. Tampa
last year where like everybody was out and somehow they won that game. Yeah, there's a lot of cases last year specifically with that, but I've been so interested into how this secondary was going to shake out, and especially without Minkah practicing with the injury to Kazee right now, it makes it even more intriguing what's going to happen and who's going to get these reps. So I'm excited to see how that continues to play out. Anything else that we haven't touched on in terms of a takeaway here for day one in pads?
Man, I think we got the big ones. Very solid crowd again, Tuesday afternoon. A lot of people out here.
Any weird things signed?
I didn't see any weird things signed. No. Not today. There are a ton of things being signed, though. Man, credit to these players. They just go and they go and they go. And, Zach Gentry came off the field today. Like Tomlin's voice was still echoing in the background. He's still completely covered in sweat. And he's already on autograph number 12, and obviously Zach's not a star player. That's got to be part of the job for him. But I just think they really set the tone for those few veteran guys that this offense has, especially. Deontay Johnson was signing autographs for a long time. TJ Watt was signing autographs. Calvin Austin and Elijah Riley and Alex Highsmith had some kind of group of young people there. Like these guys are dedicated to this fan experience. It's so unique. If you're a Steelers fan, please don't take what you have here at St. Vincent for granted. So many other teams are locked up in their facility with very minimal or no fan access to even watch practice, let alone the kind of personal interaction you get here. It's definitely a special thing in a special place.
Yeah, absolutely. They continue to go back there. So like you said, if you're a Steelers fan, don't take it for granted. Alan should probably tell the people once again where they can find us and obviously where they can find I mentioned you got something coming out about, the secondary and those young guys. So tell the people where they can find your work and where to find you.
SteelersNow.com, at PGH Steelers Now, at @Saunders_PGH on Twitter and Instagram for me and my dog pictures. And pizza, smoked food, whatever, all the good stuff. And I think that's about it. Got lots of good stuff, man. The traffic on the site has been outstanding to start training camp. Really appreciate the reader response so far. And on here, I think, I don't know where your expectations were, but I think we've exceeded mine in terms of the viewership. I'm really excited to have the comments coming. Keep them coming. I love it. Smitty is the voice of the fans, but y'all can overrule him anytime you want. Just flood our comments with enough stuff about something, and I will be forced to respond to it.
Did you see the one, 2 comments on yesterday's were about how similar Nick and I look?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it.
That's why
there's something there. And also, I think if we got you and Nick and former Steelers defensive lineman Henry Mondu, the three of you together, it would sort of look like that evolution of man chart where you have Smitty, and then you have Nick, and then you have Hank up here. It's just the same. It's the same model in 3 different trim levels. Okay, that's what we got going on here. Yeah,
without Henry there now, Isaiah Loudermilk is the one that everybody says is Nick. So
but Loudermilk's hair is too frizzy. It's not perfect. Also, so he came in first day of report day with a baseball hat on, and he had the sides shaved way up, and his hair was tucked under the baseball cap. And I was like, oh my God, did he cut his hair? I was like, we have a 5-alarm situation here. But he did not. It was just tucked up. False alarm. Gotta have that.
And obviously, going back to, I think it was in episode 1 or 2, we talked about Connor Hayward. No need to worry. He didn't end up cutting that hair.
No, he has retained his hair. And he did the next day, was not able to finish practice because of a heat-related issue. So clearly he has decided that he is just keeping the hair, even if he can't finish practice. He has his priorities in order, and the hair is one, and football is two, and I respect it as a guy that doesn't have very much.
Yeah. I am Zachary Smith, PGH. Of course, like Alan said, great response to our first few episodes here, and I can't thank everybody enough that's watched or listened to it. Keep the comments coming. We'll try to find a way, and we will find a way to tie you guys into the show and make it a community here. So appreciate that. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when a new video is posted, not just with Afternoon Drive, but also obviously Nick's camp reports, all the other content coming to the channel and stuff like that. So do us a favor, take care of that for us. I think that's it.
That's it. Send me your car pictures. I want your Steelers cars. I want your Steelers afternoon rides.
We're giving you guys the content. That's the content we want back.
We want to see them, and we want to talk about them. There's this guy, I don't know. There's another large guy with a beard you may have seen on TikTok. He's like a comedian where he like reviews people's pickup trucks. It's good. We could do that, but we need the pictures. Okay. Don't send other people's, send yours. Or if you do send other people's, at least say, here's one I found in the wild or something like that. But yeah, we need the Steelers cars for sure. I want like a 91 Mercury, like Cougar looking thing, like with some like terrible towel flags. I know they're out there. I've seen them. I want the people that own them to be part of this.
Bring them this way. All right. Well, we can't thank you guys enough for hopping in, riding along in another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. For Alan Saunders, I'm Zachary Smith, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.